Hey guys, so I want to do a little bit of a different video today, more so into insurance. As a lot of you may or may not know, I'm an insurance agent. My job is to protect people's assets and make sure that they have the right coverage so they don't lose everything that they've worked for. The reason I'm making this video is I've seen a lot of people on the forums, the Reddit forums, say they've got full coverage. I hate to break it to you, but there's no such thing as full coverage. I'll kind of explain how insurance works, and hopefully you'll learn something. So we've got a few different coverages. We're gonna have the bodily injury and the property damage, and this is what protects others. So those are gonna be always your first coverages. So depending on your state will have a state limit. So for my particular state, the state limit is $25,000 in bodily injury per person, $50,000 per accident, and then $25,000 in property damage. So what that means is your insurance company will pay up to that limit. So let's say you hit someone and they broke their arm, they went to the hospital. That would be bodily injury coverage. The second limit, this where's the little slash, is your aggregate limit, so it's a total. So let's say you hit someone, they got pushed into the car in front of them, they also got injured. You would use that aggregate limit, it's the total limit, and it would be up to that amount. Now let's say you hit someone and you killed them. Is that amount enough? Probably not. And I'll kind of explain later how to fix that and how to properly cover yourself for what I recommend. Then you've got the property damage. And of course, you can kind of think about what that is. Property damage is the vehicle or the house or whatever property that you damage. So with that, my state, the minimum is $25,000. Would $25,000 cover most cars? The answer is no. So what happens is if you don't have enough coverage, depending on your state, they do one of two things. They put a lien on you, or they garnish your wages. So I'm in South Carolina. For South Carolina, they do liens. So if you would have the money, of course they'll take it. But if you don't have the money, so let's say you hit a $40,000 vehicle, I've got state limits. My insurance covers up to $25,000, and then the other $15,000 I would be on the hook for. It's not the insurance company's fault. So if I have $15,000, they could take it from a judgment, or they could put a lien on me. So whenever I get it, then they can take it. The other option, of course, in my neighbor state is Georgia. Georgia's a garnish state. So what they will do for that $15,000, they'll garnish your wages as long as they see fit until you pay back the $15,000 that is due to the other party. And there's multiple ways to protect yourself from this. So one is getting the right limits. What I recommend as a minimum for everybody is going to be 100, 300, 100. So it's 100,000 in bodily injury coverage per person, 300,000 per accident, and then 100,000 in property damage. And that will cover most vehicles. New trucks, you got to think like a nice Sierra 1500 is like $70,000. So if you hit and total a nice new truck, that's what that's going to cost. Again, not full coverage, because you're going to be in a situation where if you hit a Lamborghini or even some of the more expensive, Jaguars and things like that, $100,000 may not cover the whole thing, but it's better coverage. Now that's what I recommend as a minimum. What I really recommend to protect you is going to be 250, 500, 100, or 250, 500, 250, and that'll protect you from almost all instances, but not all instances. So now we'll move on, and I'm going to give you all the recommendations at the end. We'll move on to the next section. So your next section is what protects you. So that's going to be your uninsured, your underinsured, and your medical payments. And some, depending on your state, it won't be called medical payments. It may be called personal injury protection. So it just depends on the state. So also depending on the state, uninsured and underinsured may be a combined limit. California, for instance, they have a combined limit. Uninsured, underinsured are the same. They're one of the same. For my state, they're separate. Underinsured is not required. I'll kind of explain what each one is. So uninsured is just like it sounds. So uninsured bodily injury. So if you get hit and run, so somebody hits you, they drive off, that's uninsured, and so they don't, or they hit you, they don't have insurance. Uninsured bodily injury. So I got hurt. This is protecting me. How much protection do I want? I don't want to be straddled with medical, let's just say I don't have health insurance. I don't want to be straddled with a bunch of bills that wasn't my fault. And potentially, if someone did a hit and run, there's no, who's going to pay? The insurance company if you have the right coverage. So the uninsured bodily injury, having the right coverage, same thing. I recommend 250,000, 500,000. And then you've got your underinsured. Underinsured sounds like uninsured. It's not the same thing. Underinsured is where they have insurance, but not enough insurance. So let's say they've got that state limit. You get really hurt in an accident, you can technically sue against your own insurance and cover that bodily injury. The cool thing is in almost every state, this stacks. So let's say I've got two cars. If I have two cars, that 250,000 actually doubles to 500,000 because the limits, they stack on top of each other. The next coverage is going to be medical payments or personal injury protection, and it's the same thing. Basically what that's going to cover is that's going to front you the money for injuries, whether you're at fault for the accident or not at fault. So if I'm at fault for the accident, of course, I've got to use my health insurance, which is maybe deductibles, or who knows, I may not even have health insurance. You can do, every state's different, but normally I recommend 25,000. 25,000 is going to cover you in most instances for at least, it'll at least cover all of your deductibles, and if you can negotiate the bill, 25,000 will cover most things. It does go up to 100,000. It really just depends on the person how much that costs. I've seen $100,000 in coverage cost as little as $40 every 6 months. For me, that would be worth it. And then you have your uninsured property damage. That's going to be somebody hits you, they don't have insurance. You want to make sure that you have enough coverage. So if somebody hits you, they don't have insurance, that your insurance actually covers your vehicle. If you don't have enough, again, the insurance company pays up to those limits. So if I've got a $100,000 car, I need at least $100,000 in uninsured property damage. Then the next coverage, underinsured. And again, your state may be different. The state may combine those limits. Underinsured, so somebody hits me, let's say I've got a $40,000 car, I bought if I bought the GT WRX, somebody hits me, they've got the state limit of 25,000 in my state, they would be short $15,000 to cover my vehicle. Underinsured fixes that problem. And then, of course, you've got comprehensive collision. Comprehensive is going to be fire, theft, flooding, hitting an animal, things like that. And then collision is just like it sounds. It's collision. Of course, what deductible you choose is completely up to you. I have some people who like really low deductibles. I have some people who like really high deductibles just because they think they're ever going to use it. That's completely up to you. Now, what I recommend to protect you the best. So if you just want what's going to protect you in most situations, you get 100, 300, 100. So 100,000 in bodily injury per person. Your aggregate limit will be 300,000. So per accident. So let's say you hit someone, they got pushed into the car in front of them, bodily injury wise, 300,000, then 100,000 in property damage. In most scenarios, 100,000 property damage will cover 2, maybe even 3 cars. Most new cars are 30, 35,000. But that's what I recommend as like a minimum. What I really recommend is going to be $250,000 in bodily injury per person, $500,000 per accident, $250,000 in property damage, and then you're going to add something to it that's going to cover you in, again, no such thing as full coverage, in almost every single situation. And that's going to be an umbrella. So what an umbrella is, it sounds just like it is. It protects you in just about every situation. It follows you. So you've got the 250, the 500, and the 250. So you got 250,000 bodily injury, 500,000 in bodily injury aggregate, 250,000 in property damage, and then you've got a $1 million umbrella covering all of that. So if you exceed, it's excess liability. So if you exceed that 250,000, you're covered for an additional $1 million. So if I was in, let's say, my state, again, there's no helmet law. Let's say I accidentally hit a motorcyclist, I would be covered for $1.25 million. So other than the legal ramifications, financially, $1 million would probably cover someone's life. Like I said, I know it's a terrible way to look at things, but when you're thinking about an accident, I don't want to be straddled with a giant bill. If something were to happen, even if you didn't kill somebody, but you hit someone, you paralyze them, I don't want to be straddled with $1 million lien on me or something of that nature where I'm going to be paying back for the rest of my life when the insurance could protect me or I don't have to pay. And again, you may still have to pay something because you can always go higher. And again, there's you may have seen there was an accident. I think it was earlier this. It was in 2017, but I think it paid out. It paid out earlier this year, where someone blew a red light and they hit a girl, and the insurance company paid out 16. They had an umbrella that covered $16 million. So the insurance company paid out everything. The person didn't pay out anything out of their own pocket. Of course, their rates may go up, but they didn't pay out that $16 million. They didn't get to put a lien on them for $16 million. So, like I said, hopefully that teaches you something. And of course, if you have any questions about any of the coverages or anything, I'm not trying to sell anyone anything. This is just strictly educational. So if you have any questions about coverages, how things work, my recommendations, please let me know. I'm happy to go over any of this, and I promise I'll tune into our traditional car videos. But I've been reading a lot about it on the forums, and it's on my mind.